What is up, Flannelverse? We are finally here. NFL resumes in an hour and a half. Inactives have just come out. I have actually not even looked at inactives yet. I wasn't anticipating any big surprises. So usually I will look at inactives right when they come out. We'll take a look in a minute here. I'm excited to be here. This is my first DFS stream on this channel. It's been 9 months. Been 9 months since I've done DFS streams, I guess, outside of a little bit of UFL. So I am very excited to be back doing some DFS streams on this channel. Really appreciate all of you coming here. I see many of you commenting already. That is awesome to see. Honestly, I was a bit nervous when I sent out a tweet last week about doing these showdown streams. Maybe people would have forgotten me after the long layoff from doing DFS content. So really appreciate all of you hanging out with me while we go through this. You can see on the side of the screen, let's see, that way. That's the plan. Starting with quarterbacks, just going to go position by position. Quarterbacks, running backs, receivers, tight ends, defense, special teams, kickers. Going to go pretty quickly through the positional groups, finish up with some questions. If any of you have questions for me, maybe build out some shell lineups at the end of the show as well. Going to try to end in about 1 hour, give myself some time to build lineups after I'm done streaming here. So we'll get right into it, starting with quarterbacks, and not going to spend a lot of time on quarterbacks because I think it is pretty straightforward here. We've got Lamar Jackson. We have Patrick Mahomes on this slate. Both are great plays. You should have at least one quarterback in a majority for lineups. If you're playing 5 lineups, I'd probably have at least one quarterback in 4 of them. They are the 2 top projected plays on the slate. Starting with Mahomes, we can talk about how we want to use them. Mahomes not a huge rusher. He's not a non-factor on the ground, but obviously a different player than Lamar Jackson. Typically, if I have Mahomes, I'm going to want to stack him, no matter where he is in my lineup. Even if he's in the flex, I'm going to be stacking Mahomes. I should note, what's up, guys? Good to see you all. Really appreciate you all coming and hanging out here. I should say I do anticipate one problem on this stream, which is it's just me, so I don't know. When am I going to have time to drink a beer? I'm used to having somebody else with me who talks a little bit. Then I can take sips from my beer. I'm not going to be able to do that here. But we'll get through. We'll get through the show. Mahomes, I want to stack him no matter what. Whether he's in the flex, whether he's in the captain spot, he does run a bit. But usually he had a few games last year where he was over like 40 yards rushing. Most of his damage is going to be done through the air. And we did see last year, he spread the ball around quite a bit last year. I think it's going to be a little bit more condensed this year with better receiving options. So yeah, I'm stacking Mahomes regardless of where I have him in the lineup. If I have him in the captain spot, I do want to double stack Mahomes. It's funny because a year ago, the first slate of the year was the Chiefs slate. Mahomes was actually in the winning lineup as the captain. With just one. Blake Bell was his only stacking partner last year on that slate in the winning lineup. So it did not go. It was not a double stack. I'm still going to be going to double stack here. I think that was an outlier. He threw 2 touchdowns, and both the touchdowns happened to go to players that did like nothing else the rest of the game. He rushed for 45 yards, which was one of his better rushing slates of the year. And no receiver had more than like 48 receiving yards. So it was just an outlier game. Most of the time, if Mahomes is the optimal captain, he's going to be at least double stacked. That's my preference. Typically, I want to do two receiving options in the flex. On this slate, his receiving options are priced so well that it might end up that you need more than 2 Chiefs if Mahomes is the optimal captain. But yeah, Mahomes always stacking, preferably stacking with multiple options if he is in the captain. And I want him, I want to have Mahomes in most of my lineups. I prefer him in the flex in general, but I'll have some Mahomes captain lineups as well. And Lamar Jackson, you don't need to stack. He was the number 1 rushing quarterback in the entire league last year, over 800 rushing yards. Certainly does enough on the ground that you don't need to be stacking Lamar Jackson even at captain. I still prefer to have him stacked if he is a captain with 1 to 2 pass catchers, probably not more than that if I have Lamar at captain. But you can run him out there naked. He does so much on the ground. He is the elite level quarterback, rushing quarterback that you don't need to stack him at all. So yeah, I think these are 2 of the best plays on the slate. There's not really that much I think that needs to be said about quarterbacks in this game because they are 2 of the best fantasy quarterbacks in the NFL. I will say, I think Mahomes, he had a pretty down year last year. I think Mahomes is going to bounce back in a big way this year. I think the Chiefs defense might take a little bit of a step backwards, which is going to help Mahomes. He's, the Chiefs will keep their foot on the gas a little bit more this year. I think the Chiefs are going to score more points this year than they did last year. I also think their offense is a lot better. So Mahomes, didn't have his best year last year. I think he's going to have a great fantasy year this year. All right, I should move this over. We will move on, talk about running backs. And hang on, let me move this over as well. So Pacheco, as you can see here, Pacheco projecting better than Derrick Henry on this slate. I think both of these running backs are, great options. Not expected to be super highly owned. I think people are going to be focusing on the passing game in general because the receiving options in this game are just priced so well. But I think 8,400 Pacheco, still a great play. I think could be a bell cow. I mean, he's going to be the leading rusher for the Chiefs. It's unclear how much the Chiefs are going to be using Samaje Perine in this game, if Carson Steele is going to have a role. I think Pacheco, you can expect him to have a pretty big workload in this game, and he's just 8,400, and he has other Chiefs players are much less expensive and project really well. So I think people are going to play this game largely through the passing game. I think the runners in this game, actually on both teams, are probably going to go a little bit under-owned. So I do like the running backs in this game. Hard to argue with the price tag, $8,400 Pacheco. You can play him at captain. The nice thing about Pacheco at captain is you don't need to, correlate him with anybody. You can play him there. You don't have to play Mahomes. You don't have to really pair him with anybody. So yeah, I think Pacheco, great option. I'll give you some of my favorite plays at the end of the slate. So just in general, though, yeah, I think Lamar. We kind of know what we have in Pacheco, one of the better projected plays on the slate, projecting him actually significantly better than Derrick Henry here. Pacheco projecting for 17 fantasy points, Derrick Henry for 13.4. Kind of interesting. I don't know if you would have expected that kind of a projection gap between the two. Derrick Henry, I think, is going to go under-owned. So I like Pacheco because he's, cheap, projects better than Derrick Henry. So you just look at those numbers. That's like, man, Pacheco looks like a slam dunk. But as a result, in large field GPPs, it kind of makes me like Derrick Henry better because you can see here projected for just 13.4 fantasy points, 9,000 price tag. He's more expensive, projects a lot worse. But would any of us be surprised if Derrick Henry outscores Pacheco? So the reason I like this is you look at, you put this in an optimizer, you're going to get tons of Pacheco. You're not going to get much Derrick Henry. Projects just significantly worse point per dollar. So I think we're going to end up with Pacheco being significantly higher owned than Derrick Henry, which in a large field GPP, again, makes me like Derrick Henry a little bit better than Pacheco. But I think both are obviously solid options here. This is a good question from John. Will Lamar run as much with Henry in the backfield? I think so. I think that Lamar is going to run quite a bit. I actually think Henry is probably going to be a pretty good diversion for Lamar. Might actually end up scoring more rushing touchdowns. That might be kind of a hot take, but I would not be that surprised if Lamar actually ends up scoring more rushing touchdowns with Derrick Henry here. Just, you little diversion, pretend you're fake a handoff to Derrick Henry. Lamar takes. I think that's going to be something that the Ravens do quite a bit this year. We'll see, but that is what I'm anticipating. I think Lamar is still going to run quite a bit. I think that he might actually benefit from having Derrick Henry here. So maybe that's a little bit of a hot take, but yeah, I think Lamar is still going to be running quite a bit. Other options at running back, Justice Hill, you can see here the next best projected running back. Also, probably not going to be super highly owned. At least he's not projected to be super highly owned. I have had a lot of pretty anecdotal here, but a lot of friends who have been talking about playing Justice Hill, betting on Justice Hill in this game. I think he might go a little bit higher owned than we're expecting, projecting him for about 10%, just a little bit over 10% ownership. Would not be that shocking to me if he actually gets up closer to 18-20%. So maybe won't be the contrarian option that we're kind of anticipating, but I still think, he's not going to be super highly owned. Could be pretty involved in the passing game. I think, the roles are pretty well defined between Derrick Henry and Justice Hill. Like Justice Hill is just going to be the receiving back. So I like him quite, 4,400, probably needs to score a touchdown to pay off that price tag. I don't think he's going to do enough through the air to pay it off. He could surprise us. He could have 5 receptions, 40 yards, look pretty good. But I think he probably needs to get into the end zone because the price tag 4,400 is not nothing for Justice Hill. But again, probably projected for under 15% ownership. Wouldn't really surprise me if he ends up a little bit over 15% ownership, just because they've talked about him being the starter. Harbaugh came out and said, we think he is a starter in this league. Now, obviously, he's not a starter like Derrick Henry is a starter where he's going to be the bell cow. But I do think he's going to have a role in this offense. Oh, Nate says, bring out the flannel. You are right. I actually meant to change before the stream into a flannel. It is hot. It is hot here in my office. So was gonna have to pull out a fake flannel, short sleeved. But yeah, didn't get out the flannel for this one. Next time, later in the year, I promise. I'll be wearing a flannel every time once it gets a little bit cooler. Hot kicker will be 100% off the lineup. I can feel it. Yeah, that would not shock me the slightest bit. So yeah, Justice Hill, I think he's going to be higher owned than most places are projecting. I still think he's a pretty solid play because we don't have much like super great value on this slate. Samaje Perine, who knows? Who knows what they're going to do with Samaje Perine? Has been on the Chiefs for less than a week. My hope is that they're going to play Samaje Perine in the Jerick McKinnon role. I think they will at some point. I don't know if they will immediately. That might be something that he has to work up to. Again, this has not been on the Chiefs very long. But I do think, Perine, again, going to be relatively low owned. I think that he is somebody that I am going to think about. Actually, let me look at some updated ownership projections for Perine. Earlier in the day, I was looking at it, and he was looking like he's probably going to be relatively low owned. But let me just double check a couple resources, make sure that he's still going to be as low owned as I've been anticipating. Let me check this real quick. Perine. Yeah, projecting very, very low ownership on Perine. I'm into it. I'm willing to take that risk in a large field GPP. It's not somebody I would play in cash, obviously, only for large field GPPs. Probably not even playing Perine in smaller field GPPs. But in large field GPPs, the upside is clearly there. If he does have that McKinnon role, that's going to be a slam dunk. He's obviously a veteran. It's going to take some time to get used to the Chiefs offense, but he's been in the NFL a long time. Capable running back, capable receiving running back. Chiefs do weird stuff. $3,000 Perine, I think, is a very solid play at very low ownership. So I do think that he's one of the better contrarian options on this slate. I'll be playing a good amount of Perine. And then Carson Steele is, I think, I'll double check this. I think he might be the only viable minimum priced option. Who at least the only minimum priced option who I will consider. I would have some Carson Steele if I play 150 lineups. I think he's very live to be a goal line vulture for the Chiefs if they're ever on the goal line. He's just 200. Probably would have been the chalk play of the slate if Perine hadn't come into the Chiefs, and that kind of throws things up in the air. But it is possible that Perine doesn't really have much of a role this week if he does take a little bit of time before they really roll him out. So I do like Carson Steele. I'm debating now whether I would play Steele and Perine together. Probably not. I usually do. I've said this before. I like playing two running backs from the same team just under the thesis of if they're just able to run all over the Ravens, then they're probably all going to benefit. A lot of people don't want to do it, so it's going to be an under-owned combo overall. So probably in a 150 set, I would play Perine and Steele together. Also, if Pacheco gets hurt, obviously they both have benefit with their contingent upside. So yeah, I think I'm willing to play Perine and Steele together in the largest field contest. So that's the $3, the $15, the ones that you have to beat hundreds of thousands of people. I think I'm willing to play them together. Probably not playing them together in a smaller field contest. Ray says, how much salary are you leaving for a 4 Baltimore 2KC build, projected 20% ownership on that build structure? That is a good question. So last year, in years past, so my biggest showdown successes have been leaving like more than $1,500 on the table. I will say I had my worst showdown year ever last year. And I think the big thing is the way I play is highly volatile because I leave so much salary on the table. You obviously are less likely to win when you leave a lot of salary on the table. I think that I'm going back to not always leaving more than $1,500 on the table because I think more of the field is doing that. I think that the field in general is leaving more salary on the table, so you don't get quite as much benefit from leaving a ton of salary on the table. A build like that for Baltimore to Kansas City. I mean, Kansas City has a lot of the values, so probably not leaving much more than like 800 on the table would be my guess. I'll have to make some lineups and double check that. But yeah, if I'm playing for Baltimore to Kansas City, it's harder to leave a lot of salary on the table because there are just not that many. Okay, if you have $1,000 left, that's great. If you like your lineup, you have $1,000 left on the table, roll that out there. I think that is plenty. Yeah, that's totally fine. So yeah, coming back to it, Piran and Steele, definitely. I think it's more likely that they don't both hit. I mean, it's very possible that neither of them hit, that it is just the Pacheco show. But I don't hate the idea of playing them together in the largest field contest because, again, they both benefit. If Pacheco goes down, they both probably would get some run. Maybe they have, or if it's just like a blowout, the Chiefs stop using Pacheco. I guess I don't know if they would use Piran in that case. He is a veteran. Maybe it would just be the Steele show, but certainly there are ways for both of them to get there. It's pretty unlikely. So only in the largest field GPPs. All right. I don't think I'm going to be playing Patrick Ricard. You can see you're projected for under 1 fantasy point. Is he gonna? That would be the shock of the century. Patrick Ricard comes in and vultures a touchdown with Derrick Henry on the team. No, I'm not playing for it. I don't think I'm playing Patrick Ricard today. It just feels unlikely, too unlikely for me to really want to play Patrick Ricard today. All right, now I gotta handle this stuff. I'm my own producer now, so I got to move this down. We're going to receivers here. So let me pull that up. And again, so this is where most of the value comes on the slate. You can see Rashee Rice just 7,600. And I do think they made this slate a month ago. Hollywood Brown was still on the team at that point. These salaries didn't look ridiculous when Hollywood Brown was on the team. Now the Chiefs receivers are too cheap. Rashee Rice just 7,600, projects for 18.3 fantasy points, was not suspended, was a great receiver last year. He was actually extremely efficient, which I didn't realize that. In watching Chiefs games last year, I didn't really think that Rashee Rice was anything special, but he, from a like yards per route run perspective, he was actually great. So I will be, Rashee Rice will be in a lot of my lineups. I like him in the captain spot in particular, not projected for like an insane amount of ownership in the captain spot. And because he's 7,600, there's just so much you can do with Rashee Rice. So I do like Rashee Rice quite a bit. Yeah, I do have that's Arbor. People are commenting on the bots all over. Good to see you guys. Emac, Mangone, what's up, guys? It's tougher now that I am running my own channel. I got to figure some of this stuff out. Like how do I deal with bots? Usually, a producer will take care of that for you. I guess I am on my own here. There's probably ways to handle it ahead of time better than what I've done, but I'll do my best. All right. So yeah, Rashee Rice, too cheap. Not going to be. I don't know. He might end up crazy high owned. I'm not sure. I think that this is a slate where it's sort of hard to predict ownership in general because there are so many great plays across the board that I think it's going to be a tough one. I think we kind of have to play the best plays. But yeah, not projected for a crazy amount of ownership. Wouldn't surprise me if he does end up like 25% owned or something crazy like that. But also wouldn't surprise me if he ends up really low owned because there are some other options. There are a lot of stars in this game, a lot of stars that people will want to play. So who knows? Who knows how high owned Rashee Rice is actually going to be? But just from a like projection standpoint, what he allows you to do with the rest of your lineup, I think Rashee Rice is a great play in the captain spot, and obviously a great play in the flex as well. Just way too cheap, 7,600 for his role as the presumptive wide receiver one on the Chiefs. Xavier Worthy, going back, just continuing on with the Chiefs first. Xavier Worthy in the preseason was playing opposite of Rashee Rice, and his 8-out was like 21 yards down the field. Like they're trying to get Xavier Worthy the ball in places where he can make big plays. So, again, ADOT about nearly 21 yards down the field in the preseason. But they can also get him the ball, short yardage stuff. I don't know how much they're going to be doing that. It wouldn't be that surprising though if they also use him in situations where they, just toss him the ball, laterally, and then just have him take advantage of his speed. Again, in case you're not aware, Xavier Worthy, fastest 40 time at the combine in NFL history, extremely fast rookie. So if you're not like me, if you have not been tuned into the NFL all offseason, that is the deal with Xavier Worthy, fastest 40 time in NFL combine history. Now he was a first round pick by the Chiefs. He's on Patrick Mahomes' team. Wheels up for Xavier Worthy. If the preseason is any indication, they're planning on some splash plays from Xavier Worthy, and he's just 5,800 here. So he's a rookie, pretty hit or miss. They didn't use Rashee Rice in a full-time role to start the year last year. Maybe they do the same thing with Xavier Worthy. I kind of think he's going to just right away have a full-time role on the Chiefs. Going to be used quite a bit. So 5,800, way too cheap for Xavier Worthy. Yeah, I mean, didn't look great, but he's playing with Mahomes. I think that just the situation for Xavier Worthy couldn't be better. I'm not sure that he would be somebody that I would be really excited about if he didn't land on the Chiefs, but just because he's on the Chiefs with Andy Reid, with Patrick Mahomes, obviously you couldn't ask for a better spot for Xavier Worthy, and I think he's good enough that he's gonna be great on the Chiefs. So yeah, 5,800 again. You can play him in the flex. You can play him in the captain spot. He's so cheap, he'll allow you to do quite a bit with your lineups. We'll play around later with some lineups, see what these builds look like. But I think Xavier Worthy is a very solid play. I think he's also going to be super highly owned. He's not some secret. He is, people know about Xavier Worthy. People are excited about Xavier Worthy. Justin Watson, to me, is one of the better contrarian plays on the slate. He was all of last year. The year before, I feel like he's been kind of that secret on Showdown slates for forever. I thought we were finally rid of Justin Watson, and then Hollywood Brown got hurt, and Justin Watson took over that starting role in the preseason. So I think we're anticipating that Justin Watson is going to be, played like a starter again this year. He's going to be on the field quite a bit. Whether he actually catches a ball, you need a splash play from Justin Watson. He's not going to get there on volume. He's going to get there if he has a big splash play. I think he's certainly he's done it before many times. I benefited from it. I know many of you have benefited from Justin Watson on Showdown in the past. And again, not anticipating a ton of ownership for Justin Watson. I think we're anticipating single digit ownership on Justin Watson. I mean, we have so many stars, and he's not like crazy cheap. All right, so it looks like slightly more than single digit ownership on Justin Watson. There are so many great plays. Like, you don't need to pay for the $3,200 guy, but he is a guy who has broken Showdown slates in the past. 3,200, you probably need more than like a 10-yard touchdown. You probably need at least like a 40-yard touchdown or like a few catches with a touchdown. You're going to need at least double-digit fantasy points for Justin Watson to pay off. So it's a little bit less likely than when he was like the minimum price. But still, 3,200, probably going to be out there for more than 50% of routes, I would guess. Should have some opportunities. Doesn't project particularly well point per dollar, but I think that he is very much in play as a relatively contrarian play. Mecole Hardman, he's 1,800. You can see here projected for 1.2 fantasy points. Not expected to have a huge role. You could play him. I think that he's playable. I doubt that I get to any Mecole Hardman tonight, but he is, he's a kind of gadget player who might just score a touchdown. That might be enough at 1,800. So in a 150 set, I'm not playing 150 lineups tonight. If I were, I would definitely have some Mecole Hardman, and I would probably be overweight to the field on Mecole Hardman. I would probably have something like, 6-8%, something like that. Clicking in the wrong places here. So I do think he's in play. I'm not going to be playing Mecole Hardman in my 25, 30, whatever I have set up lineups tonight that I still have to build after this show. But yeah, in a 150 set, I think he is in play because he's 1,800. He is a gadget player who could just score a touchdown, and it might be enough to pay off his $1,800 price tag. Similarly, so I'm not playing Sky Moore. I'll say that. You can see here projected for under 1 fantasy point. He's at 2,200. I'm not playing any Sky Moore tonight. Juju Smith-Schuster is interesting. I was tempted. I was tempted to write him up as a player who's going to be contrarian that you might want to play. I don't think I'm going to go there with Juju Smith-Schuster. He did have, so 2 years ago, he was on the Chiefs, had nearly 1,000 yards, had a solid enough year that at this price tag, he would look great. But he was injured last year. I don't think he's going to have a ton of opportunities. Again, I would probably have some Juju in a 150 set, but I don't think that I'm going to get there in my 30-ish lineups. The one thing that kind of makes me, it's more narrative based, the thought of, okay, like he's not, I don't think he's going to play a ton. It wouldn't be that shocking if the Chiefs bring back, their guy. He's friendly with Mahomes. They want to get him a short yardage touchdown, and he's cheap, where they can just do whatever they want on the goal line. Wouldn't be that shocking if they just give him one, but I'm not playing for it. I think that he's buried in the depth chart, has not been on the Chiefs all that long, has been zapped by injury. So I don't think I'm going to do the Juju Smith-Schuster thing. I would be more inclined to do Juju than Sky Moore, though. I think that he is in a 150 set. I would probably have a few shares of Juju Smith-Schuster, but I do like Mecole Hardman a little bit better. I like Justin Watson the best of all of these tertiary options after Rashee Rice and Xavier Worthy. As far as the Ravens go, Zay Flowers, palatable play. He's 8,000, as you can see here. So he's more expensive than Rashee Rice, projects for more than 5 fantasy points, worse than Rashee Rice. So it's a little bit tough to get there. But similar to what I was saying with Derrick Henry, as a result of the price tag, the projection might go a little bit under-owned. I don't know. I think people might be kind of excited about Zay Flowers. It's an interesting situation for the Ravens in general, because the Chiefs were very good last year. They lost the Jarius Sneed over the offseason. I think that's going to be impactful. The Chiefs defense was banged up this preseason, like missed several starters, missed time this preseason. So I am playing this game as though Chiefs defense is going to be bad for this game. Now, I think they're going to get it together at some point during the year. Steve Spags is a great defensive coordinator, but it wouldn't be that shocking to me if they are, a little bit rusty, still trying to figure things out, because they have not played together a ton as a unit. So I am going to be playing. That's kind of the contrarian way that I'm playing this, is for the Chiefs defense to be bad and for the Ravens to take advantage of it. I think Zay Flowers, certainly somebody who would benefit from that if the Chiefs defense, like he could just have splash plays, pay off his price tag in a huge way. I wanted to check inactives. I haven't seen anything on any surprise inactives. Let me know in chat if there were any inactives that surprised you, but I have not seen anything on it. I started the show after inactives came out on purpose so that I could check things. But again, this isn't a slate where I was really anticipating much. I have not seen anything crazy. Yeah, this could be the case. Trent McDuffie will travel with Flowers. I think that is not unlikely. Which is, so I think Flowers is still, like, I don't know if he's going to travel with him the whole game. I also don't think that he's like L'Jarius Sneed level shutdown corner. So I'm not extremely concerned about it. Oh, Devontae Walker. Thanks, guys. Okay. Tez Walker, rookie for the Ravens, rookie receiver, is inactive. That is great to hear. Yeah, I agree. Steele will play more of a fullback role. So he's live for a vulture touchdown. I think that is the only way. Like, Steele's not going to get there unless he vultures a touchdown. All right, so that's good to hear. So Tez Walker is inactive, healthy scratch. I don't think I was going to play Tez Walker anyway. As you can see, you're projected for 0 fantasy points. Zay Flowers. So yes, that is he might be covered by McDuffie. Doesn't project all that well. If he were low owned, I would still be very into Zay Flowers as sort of a low owned contrarian play. I don't think he's going to be super low owned. He's still he's only 8,000. He's the wide receiver 1 on the Ravens. People are going to be excited to play this offense. So I'm not anticipating that Zay Flowers is actually crazy low owned. I think he will have some ownership, and he doesn't project that well point per dollar. So yeah, he's in play. I think I'll probably end up a little bit underweight to Zay Flowers, even though I'm playing the game through the Ravens passing attack. Maybe I'll end up close to the field. I don't know, because the Chiefs are so cheap now. I'm second guessing myself now. The Chiefs are so cheap that I do think most people are going to be inclined to play the Chiefs, whereas I'm sort of playing the game through the Ravens offense, hoping that the Chiefs defense is taking a little bit of time to get together. So I take it back. I think that I probably will end up close to the field on Zay Flowers. But the way I'm really playing this, taking advantage of the situation, I'm into Rashad Bateman. I am ready to be hurt again by Rashad Bateman. That he's probably going to be the player that I am the highest over the field on is going to be Rashad Bateman. I've made this mistake in the past. It's possible that it's possible that I just don't learn from my mistakes with Rashad Bateman. But he has said that he didn't think he was going to be able to play last year. He was playing through pain all year. Didn't look great. He played 16 games. So he played basically the full season, put up 4.8 fantasy points per game. He was objectively bad from a fantasy standpoint last year. He wasn't bad from a real life standpoint, though. So even though he only put up 4.8 yards per game, you look at the fantasy points new metric, average separation score. They call it ASS, which is supposed to be a great metric that again, brand new. Nobody's ever had this metric before, but I think that it is going to be a sticky metric year over year. I think it's just going to be awesome. Rashad Bateman was third, I believe, in the NFL according to average separation score last year. He was fantastic. Film bros will tell you he looked much better than the stats came out. He just didn't ever put it together last year, didn't have a great season. But the metrics look great for Rashad Bateman, and the hype has been real for Rashad Bateman. Mark Andrews has said he's going to have a huge year. He called his shot with Rashad Bateman having a great year. John Harbaugh has said we expect him to be one of the best receivers in the league for us, or a top receiver in the league for us. The hype is real for Rashad Bateman. I'm believing once again. I also think this is just a great spot with the Chiefs playing without, losing L'Jarius Sneed. They traded L'Jarius Sneed. The defense could take a bit of a hit. People are not going to, I don't think a ton of people are going to want to play Rashad Bateman, in part because the price tag. I mean, you see Rashad Bateman, 5,200, Xavier Worthy, 5,800. I think a lot more people are going to say, I'll get $600 more and go to Xavier Worthy over Rashad Bateman. So I am going to play it, differently from the field in that sense. I am very into a $5,200 Rashad Bateman. All right, I said that the problem on the stream is going to be I'm not going to have time to sip my beer. Turns out I need a sip of my beer right now. So give me 1 second here. Oh man, that's so good. I love beer. Okay. Rashad Bateman, player I'm probably going to be the most overweight to on the field. I'm buying the hype. I'm ready to be hurt again. Nelson Aguilar, I don't love. He is the type of player that you would think I would love here. 3,400 should run a significant amount of routes. He's old. Last year, I think his best game was 12.7 fantasy points, which if he puts up 12.7 fantasy, if he matches his best game from last year, probably makes a winning lineup at 3,400. Not guaranteed. Maybe he has a bigger role with Odell Beckham not here anymore, but I don't know. It's tough for me to get to Nelson Aguilar. He was just bad all of last year. He played quite a bit. He's 3,400, so it's not like minimum price. I would love him if he was minimum price, to be clear. It's just probably is going to take more than a short touchdown. Didn't ever really get it done last year. I guess Tez Walker being out kind of solidifies his role as a wide receiver 3. So you can make a case for it. Probably not going to be super highly owned, but I think that the best thing I can say for Nelson Aguilar is that he's not going to be super highly owned. So, one play could be enough that he could get there. I would, if I were playing 150 lineups, to be clear, I would have some Nelson Aguilar. But he's, projected for about double-digit ownership. He's not the 2% owned super contrarian play. So if he's going to be something like 10% ownership, I'm not into that. So I think I'm probably not playing Nelson Aguilar. I'm just playing Rashad Bateman. As far as the tertiary wide receiver options go. This is actually, Nate says, New Glarus. This is actually a spotted cow from New Glarus in Wisconsin. I've still got another 8-9 of those from my last trip to Wisconsin. So man, you can just recognize from just looking through the glass. This is, in fact, Spotted Cow from New Glarus Brewery. So yeah, again, I think if I were playing 150, I would have some Nelson Aguilar. He is not a target for me because he's too high owned for his likelihood of actually doing anything in this game. So I'm not going to be playing. I don't think I'm going to play any Nelson Aguilar in my approximately 30 lineups. There are just other ways I'd rather play this slate. For example, I mentioned Justin Watson. I'd rather play Justin Watson than Nelson Aguilar. I think he's more likely to actually put up fantasy points. I think that does it for. I don't think I'm playing Deontay Hardy on this slate. I guess he could projects for a fantasy point. I don't know. I guess I haven't given a ton of thought to Deontay Hardy. I'm too excited about Rashad Bateman. I'm blinded to all these other options for the Ravens. Hardy probably a fine play in 150 set. Not somebody I'd play in a 20 max. I think there are just so many good options who are already too cheap that you don't necessarily need to go to the Deontay Hardys of the world. Let me double check that. I don't know if he's coming in at sub 5% ownership. Maybe at that point I would consider a Deontay Hardy. All right, he is. Do I need to play any Deontay Hardy? I don't think he's going to be out there a ton. I think it's more likely that they, no pun intended, that they play Isaiah Likely. They go the two tight end route. Yeah, I think he's a fine play in a 150 set. Probably not more than maybe one. If you're playing 20 max, maybe you want to have one Deontay Hardy share. I guess I'll think about it because he is low enough owned. I think I like him better than Aguilar at least. So not my favorite option, but I think he's a fine play. All right, that does it for wide receivers. I will move on to tight ends. 1 second here. There we go. All right, tight ends. I think Travis Kelce projects for 15 fantasy points at 9,600. Clearly not as good of a point per dollar option as his teammates. Rashee Rice, Xavier Worthy, both significantly cheaper. Rashee Rice projects better. Xavier Worthy doesn't project much worse. He got Pacheco there. I think Kelce goes under-owned on this slate. So I actually like paying up for Kelce, particularly at captain. Would it shock any of us if Kelce scores 2 touchdowns this game? And this is somebody I largely faded Kelce throughout the best ball season. I think that the Chiefs probably don't give him a full workload for the entire year. I don't think they're going to need to. But it wouldn't be that surprising if Kelce is out there. Wear and tear me, baby. If he's just out there a ton on this slate in this game, could score a couple touchdowns. So at $9,600 Kelce, I'm actually into it. I think he's going to go a little bit under-owned as a captain in particular. He is one of my favorite captain plays on the slate. It's very much a pay up to be contrarian spot. Again, doesn't project all that well point per dollar. There are other options that are going to make your lineups look prettier. But as a result, I do like Kelce from the standpoint of I don't think a ton of people are going to be playing Kelce at captain in particular. I think he's a fine play in the flex also. But yeah, I particularly like Kelce at captain. And Noah Gray, I think, is a fine play also. Still relatively contrarian, only projects for 3.2 fantasy points at 1,600. He'll need to score a touchdown to get there, but scored a couple touchdowns last year. That's probably about the likelihood that Noah Gray is somebody you want on this slate. He's 1,600. So if he does score a touchdown, he's got a good shot of being in the winning lineup. Probably about a 1 in 8 chance that he scores a touchdown. He'll probably score about 2 touchdowns again this year. Probably see close to maybe a little bit less because the offense is a little bit better. But he saw like 38 targets or something last year. Yeah, he needs to score a touchdown. He'll probably score a couple touchdowns this year. Could happen in this game. If it does, you'll probably want him at 1,600. There's really not much more to say about Noah Gray. Obviously not a focal point on this offense, but he's a fine play because he probably will score a couple touchdowns at some point this year. Why not tonight? Could be tonight. Not much more to say about him. I mentioned Travis Kelce, probably going to be contrarian because his teammates are such great plays, point per dollar. Look at Mark Andrews, $6,400 for Mark Andrews, projects for 12 fantasy points. I think he's going to be a lot chalkier than Kelce, and he probably should be. Again, he's 6,400. He is the top receiving option, maybe the second behind Zay Flowers on the Ravens. I think Mark Andrews, a very solid, very obvious point per dollar play that people are probably going to click into their lineups quite a bit. So hard to argue with it with Andrews, but he is going to be, I think, highly owned. So yeah, you can play him if he fits into your lineup. Great, he's 6,400. He's too cheap for his range of outcomes, but the field is going to see that too. Mark Andrews is not going to be some secret on this slate. Isaiah Likely, 2,600. Isaiah Likely is very interesting to me. So if you look at here, I'll pull up snap counts from last year, just kind of show you. As you can see here, when Mark Andrews played, Isaiah Likely did not. So we think of them as being, a duo. They're going to play on the field together. I want to point out that it was not the case last year. We didn't really see them actually on the field together all that much last year. I think that's going to change this year. I think they're going to be used together a little bit more often. I saw Mina Kimes tweeted out yesterday that she's expecting that the two of them play together this year. Their general manager came out and said that we think we have the best tight end duo in the league. They didn't really go out and get much more in terms of receiving options. They're still obviously, as I said, I'm super into Rashad Bateman. I think most likely that they are expecting a big year for Rashad Bateman. So I think that's part of the reason that they didn't really go out and get any like better receiving options. But I also think that they're probably going to run out more two tight end sets. So as I said, didn't happen last year. So it's very possible that it's not going to happen again this year. But I do think it's more likely that they're going to actually play more two tight end sets this year. Isaiah Likely is only 2,600. Man, the more I'm thinking about it, the more I'm like, I wish I'd drafted more Isaiah Likely in best ball, because I didn't take a ton of Isaiah Likely. I think that he's worth it in this game. He's worth the risk for a relatively low owned option, who is only 2,600. I think he could be pretty involved, could be out there quite a bit. So even though they didn't do it last year, I think Likely is probably going to be playing more with Mark Andrews on the field this year. So I am into Isaiah Likely, more so than Noah Gray. I think, Noah Gray, as I said, he could score touchdowns. I think he's in play. Isaiah Likely, I think, has a wider range of outcomes in terms of usage. I think that Isaiah Likely could just be used more. So it might not be just totally touchdown dependent. He might just be out on the field more, have more reception opportunities in general. People saying that it is raining during the game. I don't think that's going to affect how I play things. I'll have to think about that, though. The game could be a little bit messier if it's raining, so it might make the defenses a little bit more interesting for like potential takeaways. Become a little bit more likely when it's raining. So I guess you could play from that angle. I don't know. I don't know how much rain we're anticipating throughout the game. I don't think it's going to affect the way I play this one. All right, defenses and kickers. I guess that's a good transition to talking about defenses and kickers. They're always some of the best point per dollar plays on every slate. I think that the defenses probably do go a little bit underowned on this slate. People don't want to be playing the defense against Patrick Mahomes. Certainly, I don't think people really want to play the defense against Lamar Jackson either. So I do like the defenses in particular. The kickers, I think people are going to play the kickers. I think they should play the kickers. I think they're obviously solid plays, relatively inexpensive. This game could be very high scoring, but I actually prefer the defenses a little bit just because I think that they're going to be so much lower owned than the kickers. I think a lot of people are going to play it through like, this is going to be a shootout. So I'll play, all these players and then I'll have the kicker as well. I don't think that many people are going to be into playing the defenses. So I'm pretty into it. I'm going to play both. I think both kickers, both defenses, very, very much in play on this slate. Rain doesn't hurt as far as defenses go. I think it makes it a little bit more likely that we see some takeaways. Not really a ton more to say about the defenses. I mentioned earlier, both of these defenses going through some changes right now. So I am also playing it from a standpoint of like Ravens crushed the Chiefs or put up a ton of points here. I'm largely playing that way, but I also think these are two defenses that were great last year. The offenses also might take a little bit of time to get rolling. I think that's not going to be I guess both ways are going to be a little bit contrarian, but yeah, I think the defense is very much in play as well. Rain delay. That's not true, is it? They don't have a rain delay in NFL. Is that a real thing, or are you just messing with me? Yeah, I mean, I think it's very very possible. The defenses are relatively inexpensive. What do we have the price tags at here? Maybe I didn't pull it up here. Um, I'll pull it up. I don't remember the exact price tags on the defenses. I guess we can move on to building lineups. That might be the better way to do this than pulling it up here. All right, oh man, very cheap. 4,000 for the Ravens, 3,600 for the Chiefs. Yeah, I think the defense is very, very much in play here. As I said, not totally shocking if we do see a takeaway. Oh, lightning delay. Damn. Okay, that's interesting. Hopefully it doesn't. Okay, everybody confirming it. There is a real delay. Interesting. You don't see that all that often in the NFL. I was definitely not anticipating that. Good. Thank you for the update. Probably doesn't change the way I'm playing this slate. The fact that they're delaying it, I don't really see how that is going to impact the slate at all. But it's good to know. I wonder if they're going to move back the slate time at all. I'm not anticipating it. I'm still gonna end this show after, probably before the hour turns. I'm gonna end this show so that I can make my lineups because I don't think DraftKings is going to push it back. But good to know that they are delayed a little bit. All right. Anybody have any questions for me? I will take a look at some of the lineups that we can build. I think that we covered every player that I have in play. Again, Rashad Bateman is going to be somebody that I'm really focused on here. I think Kelsey at captain is going to be not super highly owned. I kind of like playing Kelsey to be contrarian. Let's just take a look at some of the options we have here, though, in the flex to start. So some of it's very easy to build really, really strong projected lineup. So look at Rashee Rice, just 7,600. Throw him in the flex. Throw in Xavier Worthy, just stands out, 5,800 point per dollar. Looks fantastic. All right, so we have those two. Mark Andrews is only 6,400. Fantastic play. Now we have look at this. Now we have average over $10,000 remaining. You put in Rashee Rice, Xavier Worthy, and Mark Andrews into your lineup. You shouldn't have over 10,000 remaining after playing 3 absolute studs in your lineup. So from here, you want to throw in now we have enough money. You throw Lamar in here. He's 11,400. Lamar is going to be hard to play at captain because he's so expensive. Maybe we'll try making a Lamar captain lineup. Now we have 9,400. Now let's see if we play. I think I already built this lineup, but I just want to show you something. Mahomes at captain. You have 3,200 left over. Look at how easy this is. You throw Justin Watson in there. You zero out your salary here. How many times do you think this lineup is going to be played? So I think Justin Watson is not going to be super highly owned. I think this lineup specifically is going to be crazy highly owned. Mahomes at captain, Rashee Rice. He's triple stack. Rashee Rice, Xavier Worthy, Justin Watson. Like all the correlations are. Then you have Lamar Jackson with Mark Andrews. Just a super, super strong lineup. But if you play this one in the large field GPP, I guarantee you it's going to be like more than 100 people are going to have this lineup. So I don't know. Is it good enough that it's worth it to be duped that many times? Does it have high enough odds of a lineup like this getting there? Probably not. Yeah, Noah says it feels weirdly easy to make good teams. It's so easy on this slate. That's the problem. So now you got to think about like what can you do? So yeah, somebody just said Worthy captain. All right, let's try that. So let's take Worthy out, put Worthy at captain. Then how much money are we leaving on the table? Oh yeah, he's more expensive here because it's captain. I should be able. Okay, he's 8,700. Now you play Mahomes. So now you play the same lineup. You're leaving $2,300 on the table. Now you need Xavier Worthy to outscore Mahomes. The trouble with this one would be, so from a correlation standpoint, you have Worthy at captain. You have both Rashee Rice and Justin Watson here. If both Rashee Rice and Justin Watson are in the optimal lineup, I think it's likely that Mahomes outscores Worthy. So that's where you have to think about like all right, how could this go wrong? Here, it seems in a vacuum, wouldn't be shocking at all to see Xavier Worthy outscore Patrick Mahomes, but it's going to be tough, I think, for Xavier Worthy to outscore Patrick Mahomes in a lineup where both Justin Watson and Rashee Rice are also optimal. So that would be tough for me. Now, yeah, could I do Mark Andrews there? I don't know. It feels like if all of Rashee Rice, Xavier Worthy, and Justin Watson are optimal, probably Mahomes ends up being the captain in this lineup. Like, probably just ends up being the best captain. But obviously, there are ways for it to work out differently. Worthy hits that 100-yard bonus, scores a couple touchdowns. Maybe Mahomes throws a touchdown to Justin Watson, doesn't do much else. I don't know. There are ways that people, there are ways for this to work out where a lineup like this could hit, but obviously you're threading kind of a thin line with this lineup constructed this way. I gotta ban this guy again. All right, so I'm gonna change the lineup up completely here. Somebody said Justin Tucker captain. So what would a good Justin Tucker captain lineup look like? So I've said it before. I'll say it again. When you play Justin captain, when you play somebody cheap at captain, you're much better off leaving salary on the table. I'm much less inclined to use the entire salary cap if I play a super cheap player at captain. And the reason is everybody's doing the same thing. The reason people play somebody like Justin Tucker at captain is so that they can fit studs in the rest of their lineup. So now let's see, Justin Tucker captain, you play Lamar, Mahomes. What else can we do here? Flowers, Worthy. All right, so we're leaving 500 on the table here. But even this is probably not super low owned. Maybe it is because we're leaving 500 on the table. Maybe this would be fine. Maybe this would be a low, unduped enough that this would be a reasonable lineup. But in general, when you play cheaper players at captain, I'm more inclined to leave more salary on the table. I would probably want to leave more than this on the table. So this would be one, I talk about how much I like Rashad Bateman. This would be a better lineup, in my opinion, for a large field GPP with Rashad Bateman in it than Mark Andrews, because more people are going to say, hey, we can play Mark Andrews there. Now we're leaving 1,700 on the table. I think this is a better lineup than the same lineup with Andrews over Bateman for large field GPP. Now that will be easy to check after the fact. I'm curious now to see what the duplication level will be for each of those lineups, but I suspect that this one will be significantly lower owned than the same lineup with Mark Andrews. Because again, people, when they play Justin Tucker at captain, they're doing so because they want to play all of their studs in the lineup. Those are the lineups that end up being like super highly owned. So I actually, even though Mark Andrews projects better, he's a better point per dollar play than Rashad Bateman. There's probably a 35% chance that Rashad Bateman, maybe not quite that, 30%, 25% chance that he outscores Mark Andrews. And my guess is that this one, you avoid duplicates enough that it's worth it for a large field GPP that I'd rather play Rashad Bateman than Mark Andrews. Obviously, that's only for a large field GPP, though. Yeah, Jeff says, I want to go all in on your boy, but I'm having trouble. Neil, can you make a Bateman captain? So I will. I want to be clear. I'm just playing around with lineups here. I'm not trying to give you guys like the optimal lineups. I'm just I'm trying to make some shell lineups, talk through theoretically types of lineups that I like, types of lineups that I don't like. I don't think that these are necessarily like the best lineups. I'm just kind of trying to play around with theoretically what do different lineups look like. I prefer Bateman, I think, in the flex or over at captain. I don't know. I did make the bold, far out prediction that this could be a game where Bateman breaks 100 yards. I think it's very unlikely that Bateman breaks 100 yards, to be clear. If he does, then yeah, I think Bateman at captain would look awesome. But I think overall, most of my Bateman exposure is going to be in the flex. I'll have a couple Bateman captain lineups though. So yeah, we can try that. If Bateman is optimal at captain, I think Lamar Jackson, you just see the correlation is obvious there. Now, sometimes you can avoid dupes to some extent by going a little bit of avoiding some correlation. So I think most people who play Bateman at captain probably immediately play Lamar in the flex. So maybe it's better to not play Lamar there and avoid duplication to some extent. But it's at least interesting. So now I don't think I would be inclined. If I have Bateman at captain, I probably don't want to play both of Zay Flowers and Mark Andrews. I probably want to limit myself to one of them. Although it will be a unique construction, I think, if you did play, Baltimore Onslaught. I saw ETR had that as a very low own to do like 5 Baltimore versus 1 Kansas City because of the prices. It'd be super hard to do. So worth considering. But all right, if we play Bateman at captain, my guess is that he's not going to put up 35 fantasy points. Like, it's probably going to be a lower scoring game if Bateman is the optimal captain. So maybe with Bateman at captain, you want to play Ravens defense. Maybe you want to play. Maybe this is the way to play an onslaught. Would be then throw Justin Tucker in there, and now you have all this money left over. Then you play Mahomes, Kelsey. You're leaving 1,800 on the table. But now it's a question of. So I don't think you couldn't upgrade Bateman to like Kelsey here. So yeah, I think this is this would be like a viable large field type of tournament lineup. Bateman a captain, it's a relatively low scoring game, but Bateman puts up, 5 receptions for 100 yards and a touchdown. That's enough for him to be the optimal captain. Lamar doesn't do a ton else. Tucker has a couple field goals. The Chiefs don't do a ton. Yeah, I think it's viable. But like a more likely lineup would be obviously if you just take out Justin Tucker here, put in, it'll be a lot chalkier to do something like Mark Andrews there. Suddenly that is a chalkier lineup. Still totally viable. Most likely, Mark Andrews obviously projects better than Justin Tucker. This is more likely to hit, but yeah, so that's an example of a Bateman lineup. Again, I think I prefer Bateman in the flex overall. You really do, like, you want your captain to put up a lot of fantasy points. Like we like to build lineups where you put the cheap guy in at captain. Historically, though, like the captain just usually ends up being a stud. Like you really do need those raw fantasy points at captain. So even though I like Bateman, I don't like him to like be the highest scoring player on the slate. I like him to pay off his salary. I think he has, pretty good odds of paying off his salary relative to how owned he's going to be. I like him as a large field GPP play, but I don't actually think Bateman is like super likely to absolutely crush the slate, to put up, 100 yards. I think 100 yards and a touchdown. I mentioned it as a possibility. I think it's unlikely. It's very unlikely that Bateman puts up 100 yards. I'm hoping for it. I'm playing for it. I'm playing a ton of Bateman, but I'm mostly playing for like Bateman 60 yards, 4 receptions and a touchdown, and that's enough to be optimal. That kind of thing, I think is much more likely that he has a good game but doesn't absolutely crush, and it's more likely that somebody else does outscore him. So I like him. I don't know that I love him as captain. Terry is not a huge fan of Batman. 2 catches for 15 yards. Listen, that's not unlikely. There's a very good chance that you're right that Bateman does not do a lot. I think he should have more opportunities this year than he had with OBJ there last year. I think he's healthier. I think the team wants to use him more. I think that the way they approach the offseason is as though they believe in Rashad Bateman. But yeah, you're certainly not wrong that there's a possibility that he is just the same guy he was last year. I don't hate the idea of doing like a Lamar onslaught. I think that is going to be pretty low owned. So doing Lamar at captain with Isaiah Likely. Talked about how, this could be, if you play both Likely and Mark Andrews, that might be sort of low owned. I don't think a ton of people are going to play them together. So I think that combo is one way to get sort of unique. Now, throw in Mahomes, Kelsey, then you have 3,900 left over. If you play Chiefs defense here, this is like, it'll project fairly well and nobody will do it because it's Lamar double stacked with his tight ends and against the Chiefs defense. So a little bit of negative correlation there. This is one of those lineups that projects really well. Not a lot of people do it. We pulled enough triggers that it'll be low owned, but I think this is a solid large field GPP lineup because of the negative correlation of Lamar versus the Chiefs, because people aren't going to want to play both tight ends together. I think that's the type of lineup that I could play in a large field GPP. You could also do, like, instead of Kelsey, throw in a Rashee Rice at 7,600. Now you can play Rashee Rice and Xavier Worthy in this one. Suddenly you've got Mahomes stacked up. I mean, this is a lineup that I don't know. Now I'm debating. Is this going to be highly owned, even though you have both Likely and Andrews, because you have, I mean, you're using basically the full salary cap. This is one that's kind of hard to predict. My guess is that this one would be highly owned, but it maybe worth trying this type of lineup in a larger GPP, because you got Lamar captain double stacked, all the correlations you love. A lot of people are going to be playing Lamar captain not stacked. You have Mahomes with his 2 pass catchers that are too cheap. I don't know. It's an interesting one because I think all of the individual pieces are going to be fairly highly owned, other than Likely, but I'm not sure how much we avoid dupes with the Likely and Andrews combo. Yes. Would you be likely to play both Chiefs or Ravens running backs in the same lineup? Yeah. I mean, the Ravens certainly. I think that Lamar Jackson and Justice Hill are, going to play different roles. I think Lamar is going to be a bell cow, but I do think, Justice Hill has that defined role as the receiving back. They're sort of expensive, so it's a little bit tough, but yeah, I think that I would play them together. Again, going back to the idea of playing for, a different game situation than most, like playing it as though the Chiefs defense struggles, the Ravens are able to just pound it. I think just playing it as though they can pound it on the ground. I think that totally viable to play Justice Hill and Derrick Henry together. As far as the Chiefs, yes, I think we could see, Pacheco, the bell cow, Samaje Perine plays similar to, like I said, with the Ravens. Samaje Perine plays more of the, like, Jerick McKinnon role as a pass catching back. Yeah, I think that is a viable way to play it with both, and I don't think a lot of people do it. So yeah, I've historically liked playing 2 running backs on the same team together as a way to avoid dupes. I do think that we have, cheap enough options, or cheap enough, and or the range of outcomes, like Justice Hill. He's not that cheap, but I still think it could work out. So it's not something that I would group out at the very least. How many carries do you think Derrick Henry gets? 15. My guess is 15. I think the wide range of outcomes on Derrick Henry in this one. But I think, I probably right around 15. Spurious News says 18. I think that's a solid guess. Probably mid-teens somewhere is about right for Derrick Henry. But yeah, it's hard to know because we have not seen how they want to play this yet. Maybe, like I said, I think we could actually see Lamar run a little bit more with Derrick Henry. They might just pound it throughout the game, but really hard to predict. All right. I didn't mention this, or oh man, I forgot to switch the graphic over to questions. And I just got there and I showed some lineups. If you have any last minute questions, I am going to shut down the stream momentarily. I still have to make my lineups. As far as I know, DraftKings has not adjusted the slate at all. They haven't pushed it back despite the delay. Maybe they have. Maybe I missed that. Also, somebody brought up my Discord today. If you have not signed up for the Flannelverse Discord, the link is in the description of this video. Would appreciate anybody signing up. But also, if you haven't subscribed to this YouTube channel, I am trying to grow the channel. New goal, reached my old goal of 2,000 before the NFL started. Loved that. Now trying to get up to 2,000, 5,000, whatever. Really just trying to grow the channel. So if you have not already subscribed, you like the content, would appreciate you subscribing to the channel, liking the video, commenting, all that. And of course, join the Flannelverse Discord if you haven't already. The reason I brought it up, somebody pointed out, my friend Jim pointed out before I started the stream, are they not doing the flash drafts anymore? I was super into the flash drafts on DraftKings in past years. Didn't see any in this game, so kind of disappointed about that. Full PPR, Flowers or Njoku. I think you got to go Flowers there, probably. He's just going to project better than Njoku. How do I feel about Carson Steele at 200? Yeah, wide range of outcomes there. 200, he scores 1 touchdown. That's probably going to be enough. I think that's kind of the rule. That's the way that Carson Steele gets there. I don't think he gets there without scoring a touchdown, but I think that he could play, kind of the vulture role. So I think Carson Steele is the best $200 option on the slate. That's not saying a lot. He could also be a 0. I think he's more likely to score 0 fantasy points than more than 5. But I think he's probably the most viable min priced option. If I were playing single entry, I think I would play one team blowout. Yeah, I think you got to play one team blowout there. And I think I might even be more inclined to play, like I said, the Ravens blowout scenario, because I think that is going to go lower owned. I think the Chiefs blowout would be kind of chalky in single entry just because of how cheap Xavier Worthy and Rashi Rice are. And Mahomes, actually. I mean, Mahomes is $1,000 cheaper than Lamar Jackson. As I said, I think I'm expecting a bounce back year from Mahomes. He's just too cheap. So because they're all so cheap, cheap relative to how expensive they should be, I'd be more inclined to play the Ravens onslaught than the Chiefs onslaught. And again, the Chiefs defense could struggle in this one. All right. Again, if you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel, like the video, comment, subscribe to the Discord if you haven't already. And if you have not already subscribed to Fantasy Points, that is where I post my Showdown articles Monday, Thursday, Sunday night. I am planning on, by the way, I've been undecided. I think I'm going to be able to do this show again tomorrow for the Friday slate. I'm going to try to get my write-ups in as well for the Friday slate, the Brazil game tomorrow between the Packers and the Eagles. Haven't started that yet. Need to get to work on that, but should be able to do all of my Showdown content tomorrow. So look out for that as well. I got to go make some lineups before this game starts. Good to see that the kickoff is changing, but I have not seen DraftKings change their contest. So I want to get going. I'm going to go make some lineups. Really appreciate you all hanging out with me for my first DFS stream on this channel. Thanks, guys. Catch you later.